I'll tell you briefly about Carolyn and Murli Kalavaputhi. Carolyn Ball is she's a Baba lover and counselor living in Myrtle Beach. She is the founder of the Heartland Center. And whoops, oh, so I've just lost my script here. Hold on. And the author of 3 books, Meher Baba's Next Wave, Waves and Ways of Love, and her latest book, Meher Baba in Assisi, as well as counseling books and articles. She said that her trips to Assisi, her 3 trips, were where her Baba and her Jesus became one. And Murli is our tech genius. He is based in Washington, D.C. He's part of that flourishing group. And he's part of a Baba family that have followed Baba for over 45 years. And he has a profound commitment to his spiritual beliefs and community. So we're very grateful to have his expertise today. He's going to man the slideshow. And Carolyn, I'm going to let you take it away at this point.
So Jai Baba, thank you guys for coming. I see friends in the group, and I see Paul Uccello there, who was in Assisi with us at one point. So hi, Paul. I really want to thank Angela Chen for making Baba Zoom. I think it's an amazing way for people to connect around Baba from all over the world. I want to thank Betty. Thank you so much, Betty, for helping us get this all together in the last day or two. And of course, Murli had actually asked me to do this program several months ago for the DC group, and he helps to coordinate the DC group. And then he was kind enough to take all my slides and a few of his own and put it all together so we could do a little slideshow today. So thank you to all of you, and especially to Baba, who does it all anyhow. So, I want to start out by just reading a quote that's, this is my book right here, Meher Baba in Assisi. And on the back cover is what I think highlights what it's all about. It says, this is a quote from Baba: "A meeting of spiritual personages took place here," he's referring to Assisi, "the likes of which has never before been held." And that's something, it's not very easy to wrap your mind around that, even slightly, but he says we don't understand, so that's okay. I'm going to read a little bit first. Well, a little bit of background is that I had not, as I was telling Betty before, I had not really been interested in going to Italy. I had made quite a few trips over to Mehrabad. But you know, some of us are getting older and that journey is harder. And Nick Principe, who was living in Assisi, said, "Come over and see my slides." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, I will." And I saw the slides of Assisi, and I was just like struck by lightning. I had to go. I absolutely had to go. And it became, after having, you know, gone through all my college days where, you know, everybody went to Europe and I could have cared less, all of a sudden I've got to go to Assisi. And what evolved out of that was 3 of us, well, there are actually about 5 of us in all, but some other people were involved as well, became interested in starting a center in Assisi. And I think, as it turns out, that was the draw. And that's what brought us together over there. But for me, what it ended up being is to put this book together, which is has all the quotes I could find about Baba in Assisi and Baba's work there, plus this brief story of the life of St. Francis, and plus it's a color book, so a lot of pictures of Assisi and kind of a little tour guide and some tips for traveling there. So as it turns out, a lot of people have used it to come and go from Assisi. It's become a very popular thing to go, and it's an easier pilgrimage. Emily Meyer, I think, lives over there now. Nick Principe still has been doing retreats, and then David Raffo has also been doing retreats over there. So it's become a popular place of pilgrimage, and I think maybe for other people as well as for myself, it's such a melding of Baba and Jesus. And to me, Francis lived the new life, maybe almost as perfectly as Baba did with his mandali. And so it really, for me, it brought my East and my West together. So I want to read to you a little bit from Lord Mayhare. And this is by Bao Kachuri, and this is just one paragraph. One of the reasons for Baba's trip was that he wished to remain in seclusion for 24 hours somewhere in Italy, and chose Assisi for the purpose because of its association with St. Francis. Baba sent Herbert Davy, that was Kitty's brother, sent Herbert there on August 1st of 1932 in search of a cave for the seclusion. In the meantime, Baba visited Portofino and other places near Santa Margherita. And after it was done, after the journey, and Baba went back to Portofino, and he met his lovers who were up there, Delia de Leon wrote, and this is what she said in her book, The Ocean of Love, that Baba said about his results. On his return to Portofino, Baba was in high spirits and told us about his great meeting in the cave with all the saints and masters of the 6th and 7th planes, and how they had mapped out the spiritual destiny of the world for the next 2,000 years. So obviously this is to me, this is a major place of pilgrimage, especially because of something else that Baba had said. And he said, this is also from Lord Mayhare, whenever I visit a place and stay there, however short a time, its spiritual atmosphere becomes greatly elevated. And I think many of us have been to many different spiritual places, but I can at least say for myself that the energy of Assisi is really quite astounding. And the sense of sacredness throughout that town is to me extremely unique. It is felt everywhere. It's felt in the stores. It's felt in the restaurants. And so it's just a beautiful place to go. And I want to dig in right now and share some of the slides about it. Murli, if you would be kind enough to get our slides going. So what happened was, as Murli's getting the slides going, Baba took to Italy a group of his lovers and really was merging some of his Eastern and Western folks together. But he sent Herbert Davy down to Assisi and to scope out a place for him to do his retreat. Murli, are you able to bring up the slides?
Betty, can you give me sharing rights?
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
That would help.
Little technical challenges. So Baba went with Herbert Davy and Quentin Todd, as well as his Mandali, Kakabaria, and Chanji. So here we have a picture of Assisi. This is a photograph actually by Murli. If by chance you are seeing pictures along the side of the slides, as I am, you can see at the top there's a little bar and then a fatter bar, then 2 big bars, and then I guess 9 squares. If you click on that little bar, the small one, it'll take the pictures off, the images of us off the screen so you can actually see the pictures. What you're seeing here is a view from the valley looking up to what is probably the most famous location in Assisi, and that is the Basilica of St. Francis. So go to the next slide, if you would, Murli. And here we have some pictures of, this is the cover of the book, and we'll come back to that a little bit more, but that is the cave that Baba stayed in. Over the years, it's been rebuilt and put back together, but as far as we know, this is pretty much what Baba found there, or what Quentin found. Okay, next picture, and there we have Baba, and I'm not sure where this was taken, but they were with him in Portofino and in the west. So that's of course Baba in the middle, Chanji on the left, and Kakabaria on the right. And on the next slide, we see also probably taken in Portofino. So there you have Herbert Davy on the left, and Baba, of course, in the middle, and Quentin Todd on the right. So this is the group that went with him to Assisi, that he chose to come with him. So we'll go now, and Quentin on the left, I'm sorry, Herbert on the left is the one who was sent. He was sent 5 days in advance to go looking for this cave, and it was really quite a challenge for him, but obviously Baba was with him. He chose the perfect place. So we'll go to the next slide, and I just want to give you kind of an overview of Assisi. So the other slide maybe was kind of the left side of this, the first one that you saw. And so this is a very nice, beautiful picture of the Basilica on the left, and a little bit to the right of the Basilica, not quite in view, is the hotel, the Windsor Savoia Hotel, where Baba stayed. And you can see that Murali's got a little teeny pointer, and he is pointing to that general area right there. On the far right of this slide, you're seeing Mount Subasio, and it is, you see a few cutaways there in the mountainside, and one of those, and we'll see another picture shortly, is where the cave was that Baba stayed at. So,
can you use the arrow again for the cave?
It's somewhere around that little cutaway at the right side of Mount Subasio at the top, more about halfway up, I believe. So let me see where. Okay, so the next slide. Now, as you get up close to that, and you can drive up now. At one point, you can only walk, or you can only drive partway up. But now you can drive up to about this point, and you have to walk down. But this is the Eremo delle Carceri, which is the hermitage of the incarcerated, but incarcerated in this word meaning enclosed or cloistered. And Eremo is hermitage. So the hermitage of the cloister is more or less what this means. And so you can see this from the road, but then you have to walk down a ways to get to the actual hermitage. And so this would have been the path that Herbert originally took. He had to get permission from the brothers to do this retreat there. And then when we'll go to the next slide, so we can see, this is just a view. You cut through the hermitage and you can see the valley below. If any of you have been in the mountains of Western North Carolina or Western New York, all the way up from Virginia, that whole chain of mountains, Appalachian Mountains, it looks so similar. It is actually the same flowers, the same rolling hills. It's such a beautiful place. Walking a little further along the pathway, next slide, you actually can see a map. And this map is in my book, and it identifies the hermitage. If you can do your little pointer up there, Murli, at number 1, that's where the hermitage is. And you follow this white path along. And then there's where it says 8, there's a cut down, and it zigzags across the river and off towards where number 15 is and number 14. And that's the passageway where all of the little caves were, that the hermitages, that the brothers would go into retreat. So the next slide actually gives you a map of which, or a listing of which brother was assigned to which one of these little caves. So you're passing all these little caves along the way. And Baba's was the last cave, number 15. It was Grotta del Beato Andrea di Spello. And Andrea di Spello was one of the brothers with St. Francis, and that was the place that was assigned to him. And we assume, of course, that St. Francis was in all of them, but this particular grotto, you'll see in the next slide, where is the sign? Not quite the next slide. On the way, walking towards that pathway, there are some really stunning different pieces of artwork. And these are life-size statues, bronze statues. The one lying down is St. Francis lying down praying, and then two of his brothers. They're just quite stunning. One of them is praying, the other one looking up at the stars. So this is just along the passageway. Next slide. And as you go along that passageway, you go off to the right and you start down this rather steep pathway towards the bottom. And that white area, a little bit to the upper left, you can see is the bottom of the ravine. So it's, you need to take your hiking shoes when you go. And it's really, but it's just stunning and full of flowers. And it's probably maybe about a quarter of a mile walk in all. Going to the next slide, this is one of the slides that was taken by Daniel Montague. And I want you to look closely at what you're seeing. It's kind of from the same perspective as the last slide, but you're looking across the ravine to where it goes up to the other side towards Baba's cave, what we now call Baba's cave. But look closely at the colors here. I'm going to ask you to go to the next slide and just see what you see. We're not going to point it out quite yet. What do you see in this slide? This was when Daniel took this slide. He had just taken the previous one and he just snapped the shutter by mistake. But if you look closely, and now Morley, maybe you can take the pointer and
we can't see the photograph.
You don't see any slide?
No.
I see it.
Oh, okay.
I can see it.
See it.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to have to go forward with it, and fingers crossed that it can come up for you, honey. There's Baba's head, clearly with his hair, his eyes, his mustache, his shoulder coming down, and his arm and his finger pointing towards his cave. And down below you can see his sadra. So this was quite a stunning picture, and Daniel said he was just about to click it and destroy it, and he saw Baba in this picture, and it's so stunning to see Baba pointing the way to his cave. So next slide, as you get near to the cave, you see the sign Grotta del Beato Andrea di Spello, and they actually have it cordoned off, which when I first went, I went, oh, why are they cordoning off? And then I realized probably Baba helped them do that so that Baba's cave could be protected. So as you go past this sign, Baba's cave is, 20 paces beyond this. And next slide, and you come around this corner, and there it is. There's the entrance to Baba's cave. So while you're seeing this, I want to read a little bit more. And this is from Herbert Davies' account of the day. What happened was Herbert and Chanji Baba told Herbert and Chanji to stay overnight with him, and he asked Kaka, Baria, and Quentin to go to all the way to the other side of town, if you remember, to the Basilica of St. Francis, and to attend the Mass there and to bow down and kiss the tomb of St. Francis. But in the meantime, Herbert stayed behind, and this is his account. So this is how they got up to the cave. We motored part of the way up the hill to save time. I then led the party down a hidden path to the cave, which we reached at 7:30 p.m. Now this is in August, so it's still light. Baba would rest in the cave during the entire fast, and none was to go near him or to look. At all costs, we were to keep intruders away. If he required anything to drink, it was to be put just outside the entrance. Chanji and I were to sit outside and guard the cave all night until 10 a.m., and then Kaka and Quentin would relieve us. But at 4:30, we were to return, and at 5:30 p.m. eat together the next day when Baba's fast was concluded. The leafy saplings hid the entrance to the cave and blocked the path leading to it. Cold, sleepy, tired, about midnight we made a cup of tea on the meadow stove and put it beside the entrance. Colder, then light filtered gradually through the trees. At 9 a.m. we were relieved by the others and walked home to sleep, and that's back through the town over to the Hotel Savoya. At 4:30 we returned carrying food. Baba came out, as his work was accomplished sooner than he expected. We had a very happy meal, seated around a wooden plank on the floor like children at a picnic. At 5:30 p.m., Baba had called us into the cave and explained some further plans to us. We still felt rather awed. Baba, though content with his work accomplished, was in great pain. We had to support him during our descent from the mountain, one on either side of Baba. We would run together down the steep path. It seemed as if the jolting and physical exercise helped to bring Baba down to earth. He looked like someone dazed, suffering from a severe headache. Climbing up through the dark ilex trees, we came on the road. We stood on a quarry mound and looked across the valley, purple shadows and distant lights twinkling, and above the line of hills, the afterglow of a golden sunset. Baba, despite his pain, once we had to lay him down on the roadside, was entranced by the beauty of the Umbrian landscape. St. Francis must have walked this road and enjoyed this scene. The feeling we had was assisted at a great spiritual work. Though we did not understand it, Baba's presence and suffering and the setting made our descent from the mountain memorable. And so a little bit more I want to read to you, and then I'm going to take you on a little guided tour through what was probably Baba's pathway down the mountain and across Assisi. And this is from Bao's account. Coming out of this transcendent state, Baba seemed dazed as he walked down the hill towards the town. By the time they reached Assisi, Baba appeared more normal. Herbert took Baba around the town, showing him the main places associated with St. Francis. Baba went past the home of Bernardo, Francis's first disciple. Baba pointed to a rock outside the house and disclosed, "This is the spot where St. Francis sat and meditated on me as Christ, weeping through the whole night with love for Christ." Near the Basilica of St. Francis, they refreshed themselves in the Windsor Savoya Hotel around 9:30 p.m., where Baba had a bath. They then left for Assisi an hour later after coffee. And so we'll go to the next cave and we'll kind of walk you through what we can see now next on the next slide. Okay, now this is actually a copy of a painting by Paul Uccello, spelled Uccello. Paul, as I said, was one of our group, and he's, I believe, online here today. Hi, Paul. And he just started painting, and these paintings are actually stunning, and he's got a whole bunch of them, and I hope that you all can see there's some beautiful ones of not only of the cave here, but also of the town and of St. Francis. So next slide. And you can see the inside of the cave here. It's really quite a good size, and we're sitting on a small stone bench looking across at what has become the altar. And Baba lovers will come and leave their pictures and pictures of Baba and remember him here. And sometimes the brothers come and they clear out all the pictures, and you can go to the next slide. And you can see Baba lovers come with their pictures, and more are placed. And one of the sweet things, if you visit Assisi, is that there are rosaries made out of olive wood. And that's one of the things that Baba told Kaka and Quentin to do, is to bring a rosary to the tomb of St. Francis. So you'll see a lot of them made out of olive wood, and they're very beautiful. So that is also the inside of the cave. And the next slide shows the descent from the town, walking down the road, and you can see way below, on slightly in a little bit above the middle, you can see the top of another basilica that became very, very important. It's the Basilica degli Angeli, of the angels, and it was actually the second church that Francis rebuilt, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So next slide. So the walk down is just beautiful, but it's quite a walk down. And this is just to show you, on the very right side of the slide, you're coming into the town. You can see there's kind of a big white area, and there's a chapel right there. And then on the left side, is all the way to the left, you'll see the Basilica of St. Francis. So it's probably a half hour and 45-minute or hour walk through town. So each time the Mandali had to walk back and forth through town, they made this trek. But now we're going to walk through the town together. Okay, the next slide. And this is, now I'm going to be also talking, if you imagine Herbert is walking through the town and showing Baba these sacred sites. And this is a cathedral of San Rufino. This is actually the first place where St. Francis preached. And there's some little pedestals kind of up by the front door. And he would stand up there and speak to the community. And the house on the left belonged to St. Clair. She lived in that house. So she probably looked out of those windows and first saw St. Francis preaching from in front of the Cathedral of San Rufino. So the next slide. This is a statue that is inside of that basilica of San Rufino, and it's just, to me, just one of the most stunning sculptures that I've seen of St. Francis. The next slide is one of St. Clair, both of them across from each other in the basilica. Whoops, we went to another one. Okay, I don't know that slide. Okay, there we go. So there's the statue of St. Clair. So both of them very exquisite, beautiful, beautiful artwork throughout the town, throughout the cathedrals, just stunning. Some of the artwork was destroyed by an earthquake, but it's such a feast for the eyes and so much also for the heart. Next slide is the Basilica of St. Clair. And that's further downtown, a little bit towards the south part of the town. Inside, next slide, you'll see inside of the Basilica of St. Clair. That's actually the sarcophagus, or the statue over the tomb of St. Clair. And it's really stunning. The whole town is a place of pilgrimage. It's not just There's so many sacred spots in this town that every place you go is just filled with just beautiful prayers. And to think that Baba went to almost all of these places and left his Nazar in this town, you can come to see the fact that he walked through the town meant that he left so much of his Nazar and his connectivity to him in Assisi. It's quite something. The next slide is, as we go further along, this is coming out of that basilica overlooking the town. This is actually a view of the church where St. Francis renounced the world, and we're going to see a little bit more of that later. But I loved how this picture came out. I call it as above, so below, because the clouds completely mirror the side of the mountain. So I just thought that was a little gift from Baba. Next slide. As we go further through the town, this is the piazza and the fountain and the typical piazza of downtown. Next slide is, you'll see the piazza, and I have to tell you that restaurant on the right is where we had lots of croissants and cappuccinos. So if you go on pilgrimage there, that will probably be an important place for you as well. There's a big archway on the left, and you actually can cut down to the lower part. And if we go to the next slide, you can cut down through the lower part of the town, a little bit to the south. And this is a cathedral that's been built on the top, or a chapel that's been built on the top of the home of St. Francis. And the next slide is actually showing you a view to the side looking down into their home. Now, if you have seen the movie Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, it was not filmed here, but you can still get this sense of this wealthy merchant. He dealt in fine fabrics, and his family. So this is quite a beautiful home. You can go in. At one point, his father got very mad at Francis because he was acting so absurd in his father's business mind that he incarcerated his son and thought he'd teach him a lesson that way. It only helped Francis to go more internal and move him more towards his real purpose in life. We'll go to the next slide. And this is, if I read to you before, this is Nick Principe and a friend that was visiting. And this is the place. This is the home of Bernardo. This is Bernardo de Quintavalle. That was Francis's first disciple. And this Baba spoke of the place where Francis spent the night praying and weeping for love of God. And that's stone step to the left, or to our right, but to the left of Nick there, is the place where Francis was praying throughout that night. And something that's very interesting about this slide, and I looked at other slides and made comparisons. There is a source of light beaming throughout this slide, and there's no source of light in any picture around there. So this is maybe Baba showing us what it, maybe what it was like when Francis was there praying and being touched so much by the Lord, who we know now. Now is Baba. Next slide. Now, if you watch that movie, and I highly recommend this movie, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, there's a point in the movie where Francis is confronted by his father. His father gets so fed up with him. He drags him to the bishop's palace. Well, this is the actual bishop's palace. And he goes before the bishop and asks the bishop to please try to talk some sense into his son. And the bishop says, and I don't have exact quote, but how can I say what he should do if he has dedicated his life to the Lord? And this is the place where Francis took his clothes off, gave them to his father, and left as a renunciate, left the family and just wandered off into a way to go into retreat. And so this was the home of the bishop where this scene, the actual place where this scene had occurred. I've seen this movie, I think I've counted 14 times. I cry every time. And I just can't recommend this movie enough. So next slide. And we're going to just walk you a little bit down through the town. It's such a gorgeous city and so beautiful, and flowers. And this, all of this stonework is ancient stonework. And all of these stones were cut by hand out of the quarries up on Mount Subasio. So this entire town is built of this beautiful pink and yellow stone. And actually, Francis had learned how to do stonework when he was young, when he was growing up. So that becomes part of his story a little bit later. So the next slide we're going to see is actually the Cathedral of St. Francis, or the Basilica of St. Francis. So you come upon this and you look out over the mountains and the valley, and it's just stunning. As we go to the next slide, we're going to see what the tomb of St. Francis. And this is where Kaka and Quentin were told to come and bow down. And right up above, where the light is, kind of above the altar, that's where he is buried. They actually, at the time, everybody wanted a piece of saints, and he was made a saint fairly early on. And they hid his body for many, many years before they finally brought it here and enshrined him in the tomb. So, but people are constantly just pouring through here. This is a rare shot of no one bowing down. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. Next slide. Let me see. Okay, so we've left right below the Basilica. We've left the Basilica. This is the Hotel, the Savoia, the Windsor Savoia Hotel that, if you recall, was on the other side of town. So right below the Basilica of St. Francis. And this is where Quentin, or rather Quentin and Kaka stayed. And then Baba, when he was done his walk through the town, and obviously blessing this whole town and all these sacred places, he came and took a shower and left. And so I'm going to show you a few more slides that are important, a little bit more. Next slide, you'll see inside the hotel. And one of the fun things is that cabinet right there that's sort of in the middle with a little door on it. If you go to the next slide, you'll see is the same telephone that was there way back then. So quite a fun thing to see that they have actually, just as instructions were for keeping Baba's home in the West in Myrtle Beach, the same. It seems that the Windsor Savoia is still the same. And Nick Savoia did his, Nick Principe did his last Sahavas actually at this hotel, which was so delightful for everyone. Next slide. I'm just going to highlight a couple of other places. This is San Damiano. This is the first chapel that was rebuilt by St. Francis. What happened was he had come here and he had bowed down before the crucifix that is in San Damiano, and he had a vision, and Christ spoke to him and said, "Rebuild my church." And he had been trained in masonry, so he started physically rebuilding his church, and he actually rebuilt 3 chapels. Little chapels, not these whole edifices that have been built since then. But he actually rebuilt 3 of them. But St. Francis was enormously influential in cleaning up a lot of the corruption in the church that was going on at that time. And if you watch that movie, you'll see a little bit of the story of how the church, and this actually happened, the church gave great respect and reverence to St. Francis because he was so obviously connected with Christ. and he just inspired them to make enormous changes at that time. A couple other places I want to point out to you. Next slide. If you happen to go, oh, this is the inside of San Damiano now. It later became the cloister for the Poor Clares, where Saint Clare started her own Saint Francis order, you would say. Saint Francis guided them, but they were cloistered nuns. The next slide shows the church that I had mentioned before, Santa Maria delle Angeli. This is down in the valley, and it's the third church, I can't remember, second or third that he rebuilt. And inside at the very nave, if you walk into it, next slide, you'll see something called the Porciuncola. And when I was walking to look at this, I wanted to see the Porciuncola for some, I don't know, past life or whatever. I had great desire to see this. And so I was walking along the side and I said to a guard there or something, where's the Porciuncola? And he said, behind you. I turned around, I just burst into tears. And I was just, so this was a stunning, stunning place for me. And just to imagine St. Francis with all the brothers gathered around outside of the Porciuncola, living the life that Christ had told people to live. And so this is the third one that he rebuilt. Yeah. Okay. There's one other place if you decide to go on pilgrimage, next slide, and that's Laverna. This is also a very stunning place. Laverna is where, towards the end of his life, Francis went into retreat and he received the stigmata. So this is the grounds, and then next slide you'll see some of the just stunning area around where he it's just so beautiful. Everywhere you looked was so beautiful and almost like heavenly, I'll say. Next slide. And that's also the view from looking from Laverna out to the mountains. So again, if you've been in the Appalachians, you almost feel like, this is almost exactly the same. So there's one other thing I want to point out. We'll go to the next slide. And that is a very interesting thing about St. Francis. He was very ecumenical. He actually he took a pilgrimage and went to the Crusades and tried to connect up with some of the people that were supposedly the enemies. And so he is seen as one who brings all the religions together. And of course, when I saw this and saw the similarity between that and Baba's tomb and the indication of the different religions all coming together, this to me is once again Baba's stamp on this. So, and then I'll show you one more picture if you go to the last slide. And this was one of my potential covers for my book, Meher Baba in Assisi. But just the idea of Baba was and remains overseeing and looking over this town and with his energy infused. And there you've got the basilica on the left and Mount Subasio on the right side. So those are all the slides. And I want to thank Murali. He squeezed this into family obligations. So Murali, thank you so much for being willing to come on and
Thank
be
you.
a part of this. Jay Baba, I know you have to run and take care of family obligations. So many, many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty.
Murali, do you want to say anything before we open up for questions?
Yeah, so one thing, Carolyn, actually, it's a little older, but I have walked the entire path to Baba's cave, the main way or the Baba way, and then the back doorway also. And I've had a movie created. It's about 40 minutes, and actually it shows many little details because I went around those statues of that hermitage. So I'm going to share that link to you and Betty, and then they can both can be distributing that out. Both of you can. That's all.
Why don't you
Thank you so
share,
much, Murli.
why don't you share
Thank you.
to everyone? Just share to everyone, Marley. We'll all get it then.
Okay. Okay. I'll check back with you. Thank you, Jay Baba.
So, okay, do we have questions? And I see some things written at the bottom, but I think
Oh,
you have to.
Let's see. Elizabeth asks, oh, what is the significance of the town of La Verna? And Anne has answered, where St. Francis received the stigmata.
Right, now, in case you're not familiar, the stigmata are the signs of the cross, the nails and the cuts from the crown, but the nails in his hands and his feet. And so Francis received that when he was in La Verna. So that was the location of that town. So that's why it's important. If you can go, I went, as I mentioned, David Raffo is doing retreats now. He and I went up to La Verna together, and he has race car driving skills, I think. It was quite a winding and exciting drive up there, but just the energy there is stunning and so beautiful. So go if you can. Any other questions or anything that anybody wants to share?
Adi asks, what is the name of the movie again?
The movie is called Brother Sun, Sister Moon. It was actually filmed in the next town over, which is, oh, wait a minute, Perugia, I think. And it was done by Zeffirelli, who was a great artist. It is a stunningly beautiful movie all the way through. And the fact, I mean, there's so many movies I've seen of Jesus and other saints, and I think trying to convey holiness through a movie probably isn't very easy, but it comes through very, very clearly. So Brother Sun, Sister Moon by Zeffirelli, and I think you can actually see the whole thing on YouTube. Any other questions or anything that anybody wants to share about their own experience?
I hope you all are able to unmute yourselves. You can raise a hand digitally if you're having any kind of trouble.
Caroline,
Yeah.
I just want to say something. This is Lenita. Can you see me?
No, but I believe you. Hi,
You don't see me?
no, I can't. I only see a few people.
Keep going, Lenita. You should be able to see you in a minute.
Okay.
I know.
It's okay. She knows it's
Oh, I
me.
see you. I see you. Go ahead, Lenita.
So Caroline, I just want to thank you for this because this is so beautiful. I've been there, as you know. I did it. I made this pilgrimage some years ago, and it's just brought me back. You know, the feeling, the spirituality of the town, which is beautiful. The sculptures and the nature, the beauty of nature, and the caves. You know, I feel like crying because it brought me back. You know, all the memories came back to me immediately when you start talking, start showing the slides, and it's just amazing. You know, it's amazing town. I agree with you. It's full of love and spirituality, and his presence is so clear there and strong. You know, Baba's presence and St. Francis presence everywhere. You know.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you.
I want to thank you for doing this because it's really amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for telling all of that. I see Paul here. Paul, would you like to say anything about your time? I want to go get another painting of yours and show it, but would you like to say something about Assisi?
Well, I would love to just echo with what Lenita said. Thank you for putting this together today. And it brings me right back to there also. I've been to Assisi several times. And I think the overall feeling of Assisi is just one of lightness and joy that one feels in Francis's presence. And the last time I was there, I stayed right in the town. It was a little hotel there, Hotel Pox. And it was right next to the steps that you mentioned, Carolyn, that where Francis wept. And it's just full of Baba's love, full of his love all over. And so this has brought back some tremendous memories and heart memories of it. So thank you for doing that. And you know, I'm a beginner artist. That was the first painting I ever did when I got back, oil painting, and I just since that time I painted a lot. So it was you know, I've done many paintings, and but that was a catalyst for it, that this came out from my visit that was there. Thank you.
Paul, I just wanna compliment you for the painting of the cave. Oh my God, it's so beautiful, so precise, you know, and so real. You know, at the first when I saw, I didn't realize it was a painting. And then Caroline mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, it's a painting. But it's great. You know, I like to see other of your other works of, you know.
So Paul, can I have permission to show your St.
Sure.
Francis picture? Okay, well, here it is. This to me is unbelievable. I mean, I wish I could, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, well, it's good. Yes, we see. Yeah, looks good.
Are you able to make it big? In my screen, it's small.
It's big. It's yeah.
Okay.
You spotlight you, but yeah, it's okay now. Okay.
There we go. So, I mean, Paul, how many zillions of painters have painted St. Francis? And the feeling of this, look at this, is just stunning. And it also, it's like Baba and the lepers and Francis and the lepers. So I just, it's stunning. So Paul, thank you. Is there any way that people can see more of your paintings?
Yeah, I can send some out. Yes, I'd be
And do you
happy
have
to
a
do.
website or something where they?
I don't, but I can post them to you, and if that works.
Oh, maybe we could schedule you for an hour on Baba Zoom. Would you think about that? An hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Great, wonderful.
Thank
Any other questions or things that people want to share?
Well, I could share a little something, perhaps. I did go at one point about 10 years ago. Valeria very graciously took me to the cave, and rather than I didn't get to go through the cloister there. We kind of parked on the roadside and climbed over a fence. But she was very gracious, and she set me up staying at I think it's Camera de Cascatel. It's kind of the last a little B&B on the way up the highway, kind of a little ways out of town, and it was just lovely. I had a wonderful time there, and ended up with a rollicking good time with people I didn't know in the restaurant. It was just really great. But what I want to share is I have a good friend that most of you probably do not know, Tim Monroe. In 1980, on his only trip to India, he stopped off in Italy, but then was pickpocketed, so he had to stay longer, waiting for his dad to send him some more money. So he spent a lot of time in Assisi and was very taken with the atmosphere there, to the extent that when he came back to Greenville, where he and I were both living at the time, he was just beginning a pediatric residency there. So he was so taken with the atmosphere that he started attending the Catholic church on the African American side of town, which had initially been years earlier had been referred to as the St. Gabriel's Mission to the Color, to give you a sense of the Catholic Church in the American South. So he started attending there, and the priest was a Carmelite priest. It was the only parish priest job he had ever had. At one point, Tim came to Father Albert and said, "You know, I feel like I'd like to join the Catholic Church." He said, "But I have to tell you one thing." He said, "Yeah, I'm a follower of Mayor Baba." So Father Albert says, "Oh, I know of Mayor Baba." He said, "I would counsel you to share your understanding of Mayor Baba. Don't hide it from your fellow parishioners." And he just admitted Tim into the membership of the Catholic Church without having to go through any classes or anything like that. So I'll let that story stand for itself, but I thought it was worth sharing.
Great. That's a great story. Thank you. Yeah. I think it's well known within the Catholic Church among some quarters about Baba. Ed Flanagan was part of getting the Heartland Center going, and as was Jim, both of them. But he was, as you know, a Catholic priest also, and he loved to share lots of stories about that. So anyhow, anybody else want to share or stories?
I do. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
It's Rosalie. I had an experience, not in Assisi, but my mother's name was Frances, very Catholic, and she passed away in 2001. And I went. Baba provided I went to California to her. Her time of leaving, and she was already gone. And I was at, if anyone knows John Connor, I knew his parents. His father was a doctor, Anyway, I come into their house unannounced because it's just how it was. And he's Mr. Connor, the father, says, "Give Rosalie a plate of food and a glass of wine." Anyway, the next morning, as I was on my way to my mother's funeral, and it was very funny because she was very Catholic, and her parish of service was Our Lady of Lourdes, but the not the shroud, but Juan Diego, where the Virgin had appeared on his knapsack, his burlap sack, was being shown there. So she couldn't have a funeral there, which was really kind of funny. Anyway, I'm on my way to her funeral in the next town over, and the cab driver is a Muslim, and he's playing this wonderful stuff. He was going to turn it off, and I said, "No, I love it. Anyway, I get to the funeral, and very Catholic. They have certain things they say. They have like set things they say, and in Latin usually. But anyway, the priest is walking around my mother's coffins in the middle aisle full of flowers, and I'm sitting there, and I heard clearly the priest saying in English, and the name Francis means free, F-R-E-E. And 3 times, like a shaman, he walked around the coffin. I'm the only one that heard it, I'm sure. Untie Frances and let her go free. And I was just enjoyed that so much. And so, that whole thing of Francis being free, he was free. Anyway, that's my sharing. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, I just want to just also share with everyone And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in the Basilica of St. Clair down below. They actually have the artifacts of Francis and Clare, like his tunic that he wore. It's
Mhm,
preserved. It's preserved there,
mhm,
along with Clare's dress or
mhm.
gown.
Yeah,
And you know, I swear, like it glowed. Her gown, like, just glows.
yeah.
It's so beautiful, and to see Francis's tunic that he wore, and it's just so moving. And when I was down there, out of nowhere, a nun came out from the back and handed me the crucifix card that has the Saint Francis prayer on it, and it was really touching. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So many little amazing things, just like what often happens in Mehrabad, just coincidences. It's really, if you haven't been, I encourage you to go because it's just full of Baba and Francis. Anybody else want to share anything?
Could you comment on the practical aspects of getting to Assisi? I mean, what kinds of things did you have to go through to get to do your first trip? Like, if someone's never been there before, what kinds of things do you need to think about?
I can't tell who's talking. Who is that?
It's Elizabeth Robinson. I have my video off.
Oh, okay, Elizabeth. I encourage you to get the book. If you haven't gotten it, you can get it on Amazon, because it really gives you a lot of the details of how to get there. Assisi is I don't know, a 3-hour drive or something. Do you remember, Paul, how long a drive that is? 3 or 4 hour drive.
Yeah,
So
about that. Yeah.
yeah, so I would go in, stay overnight. I would either go in or go straight across the street to the train station and go up there. It's a little bit of a challenge. It's a long train ride and you have to change in Rome. Or you can wait till the next morning and take a bus up there, or you can sport for a taxi. And then I've stayed at Airbnbs, but a lot of that is, the third part of the book, there's actually, the first part is about Baba, all the quotes from Baba being there. The second, the story is of St. Francis. And then there's a lot of stories of Baba lovers who've been there, their stories and their experiences. And then the last part is kind of a travel guide. And so a lot of the information that you would need is there, but you're also welcome to email me and I'll try to help you. There are other people, Jennifer Tinsman and Nick Principe, who take a lot of people. So there are ways. I want to add one more little story and then maybe we can wrap it up. And that is when I was gathering stories from people, I had actually had an experience, sort of a dream-like experience, I don't know what to call it, where I was in the cave. But the cave was not a small enclosure. It was a big enclosure. And I just looked around and I had this sense of all these personages that Baba spoke of and a sense of Baba being there. And I said to Baba, is it okay if I see this? And he said, yes. And I said, can you tell me what's happening in the meeting? And he said, no. And so that was clear. But anyhow, I'd had this experience, but then as I invited other people to share their stories of Assisi, Ken Nunzig shared his story. He also had gone into the cave and experienced it as more of an arena instead of a closed space where a meeting was going on. And then he told me he knew another person who had also experienced that. So I don't know what that place is. Is it I don't know. It's a connecting place at minimum. So anyhow, I think, does anybody else want to say anything or is it a good time?
I do, because it's connected with Francis. The current Pope Francis, being a Catholic, I'm very schooled in Catholic whatever, not canon law, but I went to a lot of Catholic learning. And this particular Pope was from Argentina. He selected the name Francis, and he is in the order, in the Catholic order of Jesuit. And so that's a very learned order, actually. It's very intellectual. But there is a saint off Goa in India, St. Francis Xavier, who was a Jesuit. So they say to, I forget what his name was before he was Pope, they says, oh, you chose Francis because of Francis Xavier. He said, no, I chose Francis because I love the poor and because of Francis of Assisi. So I'm sorry, it was just too much of a connection with Baba, his favorite saint. You know, it just tickled me to know. And when he came out, after that, he didn't want to be Pope, first of all. He did not want to be Pope. And then they were trying to put him in as Pope. You know, they have a closed meeting, all the men, cardinals, you know. They wanted him to be Pope. And he said, no, I don't want to be Pope. And they elected Benedict, and he couldn't handle it. So many scandals, you know. So anyway, but the next time they wanted him for Pope, so he thought, well, I guess I'm supposed to be Pope. But it's so interesting. And, you know, if I was a seer, I would say he is the last Pope. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking with it. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and it just has been delightful, and thank everybody for sharing, and Betty especially, thank you. Is there anything you want to say to wrap things up?
I want to make sure Jim has a hand up. I don't know if that's from before.
Oh.
Or did you have something else to say, Jim? You'll need to unmute.
No, that's from before. I have to lower my hand now, I see. Okay. Okay, I've done it. Now I'm gonna.
Oh, this has been wonderful. Oh, golly. It's Rosalie, how about you? Is your hand up from before also? Yeah, all right. Okay. Thank you so much, Carolyn. This just turned out splendidly. How we were you know, we had some moments of wondering how, but wow, this is fantastic.
Right, we had some technical challenges, and then we just decided, you know, Baba's running the show. We'll see if he can, what he's going to do with it. And he, as usual, Baba puts on a good show. So thank you all for being part of it.
Thanks,
Thank
Carolyn.
you, Betty. And it was so nice to see everybody. Much
I
love. Hey, Baba.
Thank you.
Do you see Carolyn's email in the chat there, folks? It's good. Anybody need it? All right. It's been lovely. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Morley.
Thank you, Betty. Thanks to Murali. Thanks to Angela. And thank you all for coming. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.